Okay. Okay, so we're going to call tonight's meeting to order. This is the August 6th, 2024 Board of Selectmen regular meeting. I'm Bob Carlson, the first selectman. Also with me is Selectwoman Nicole Porter and Selectman Brett Mastriani. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Public comment on non-agenda items? Hearing none. I look for a motion to approve the minutes from June 16th.
I will make a motion to approve the Town of North Stonington Board of Selectmen minutes held on July 16th, 2024 at 6:30 PM at the North Stonington Education Center and via Zoom as written.
Do I hear a second?
Just looking, there was one, wasn't there a request to change something? Well, I'll second that and then we can discuss.
Okay, well, that's open for discussion. We have a second.
Let me just look at my notes here. It looks like it was already changed. So we got a message from Jen that asked us to amend them to say July, because she wrote June, but it looks like they've already been amended, so no issues.
I think it's the
That's
minutes,
right.
the minutes themselves said June 16th instead of July, so she
Yeah.
did change that.
Yep.
All right, perfect.
Okay, so we have a second motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes 3-0. Okay, is there any comments by either selectman?
I just have something that I'd like to maybe see on the next agenda, or since Alan is here, I was wondering if there's a way that we can do a cost analysis and when it comes to our grounds maintenance of this building here and maybe some of the other ones, to see how much it really costs us to do the work ourselves, hourly wage, how many hours in materials, just because it's nothing against the highway department or anything like that. I know you guys are handling a lot when it comes to grounds, but I noticed we do get to mowing. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but the outside the mowing, the weeding, the beds, things like that, or especially around this building, right on Route 2, there's been weeds in front of our electric sign, digital sign for quite some time now. So it's just something I wanted to bring up to see, maybe we do a cost analysis to see if it's worth us keeping it in-house or
appears
looking
he's
for
done
outside. It looks like he has something in his hand, so we will, I'll move on that one later.
We kind of had that discussion, but that's okay. And that's why he's brought it to the meeting this evening. So we talked about that this week, actually. So,
Oh, okay, perfect.
yeah, he's ahead of you.
All right, he's always one step ahead, Alan. Thank you.
Can I just ask, can you remind me where we left off with the additional speed hump?
Yeah, so it was Donnie's project and he's been away on vacation. He just
Okay.
come back from a cruise. We talked about it first thing this morning. I had both Donnie and Alan in my office at about 7:30. He's gonna get on it with B and, who is it? Is it B and W? And they did the first 4. And I said, before you leave on October 8th, I need that speed hump in there. So it's a continuation of the other 4.
Yeah.
So same company.
Okay, I just didn't know where we left off. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, first selectman reporting correspondence. We did get correspondence from Safe Futures just saying thank you for yearly. They're in the budget, and we give them a donation as part of our budget. And they just sent a letter saying thank you because we sent that in. Typically, a lot of nonprofits, as soon as it comes to July 1st, they start getting letters saying, "Can you send it out?" And we did. Secondly, just want to say that our interviews are going well with the trying to replace our 2 open positions in the finance department. I'll be sending out some resumes tomorrow to the interview board on the 5 candidates for the admin finance director. I just want you to look at them, see, there's 3 I've committed to for interviews already. There's 2 other ones, one that Brett had asked for, and there's one that came in today. Just to see if you think that you'd want them included in the interview process. We probably won't do anything next week. I know Brett's tied up on Monday and Tuesday. I'm tied up Wednesday and Thursday. Rod hasn't eaten dinner in about 2 weeks. So, so I think we'll skip a week, and then maybe the week after that, we'll come back and try to get some interviews done, if that's okay with you guys. But I'll send those resumes out tomorrow.
And we're still leaving that up and posted during the interview process?
I paused it today because
Yeah.
we have 5 candidates. I can always put it, so I didn't close it. I paused it. I closed one, but paused the other one.
Okay.
So it could easily, and all it says is ask you why you paused it, and said just reviewing current candidates. I can open it back up at any time.
So when you say pause, you just mean on like LinkedIn or the sources, but not on our website?
No, I just paused it on Indeed, which is where I've gotten most of my resumes.
Okay.
Because it costs $36 a day, but it costs me no dollars if it's paused.
Okay.
So.
So it's still live on our website? if
It's
people
live on the
okay.
website. It's still live on the, didn't cost us any money, but in the GFOA,
Okay.
and it's still live on LinkedIn.
Okay,
Just the one that's costing me money every day is paused.
Yep, that's
That's it.
fine.
Okay.
And then one other thing, do we have an update on the pickleball final?
Alan can give you that update. I know that Tom Fabian was supposed to meet, somebody from Abbey, that was doing the finish coat and the lining last week, and the guy forgot he didn't meet Tom. He called Tom and he was nowhere near here. He was on his way to East Lyme or somewhere, so. But, I know Tom was there with the Armstrongs, hoping to meet this gentleman so they could give him instruction about how the lines were gonna be and so on. But is that correct, Alan? Yes, he's nodding yes, so, perfect.
Is there anybody?
Okay, moving to number 7. So we've been charged by the capital committee to start looking at capital earlier this year as we did last year. And I thought the capital committee was actually going to embrace this and come up with, how they want to handle capital for both the highway garage and the fire and ambulance services. So they pretty much gave it back to the selectmen, say, no, you guys are gonna do that, and then we'll just tell you if we like it or not. So that's where we are. So I thought maybe it'd be good to, since we have a tri-board meeting in September, start talking to the 3 big major players on what their thoughts are for next year, and also in the years to come. What do they think's coming up? What's next? And then we can have a better idea to start fine tuning that. It worked out very well last year, I thought, and hoping it works out equally as well this year. So I invited the Chief Steinhardt, Logan from the Ambulance Association, and Alan from the Public Works Department to do some sort of a presentation, just to get us going in the right direction on capital. So I don't care which order we go in. So whichever one has to leave Earth first, you can go first. If not, you can just go in the order. You get more than welcome to take these 3 microphones. Just by taking those 3 microphones, you're all on camera. Anyone can start. If we want to start with Charlie and work our way down, that's fine.
So how do you want to go over this? So I have a sheet for actually everybody. This is the 20-year capital plan as of the 1st of this month. Was revised. And at least you'll see the numbers, what I did.
I'm gonna pass it.
Oh, I gotta get my glasses.
So if you look at the left column, it's all the known capital purchases for the next 20 years. Again, there's also unforeseen expenses. We don't know, things break, whatever, but it starts off with a company vehicle, then it goes down to turnout gear. Currently, we're funding the turnout gear for $23,000. You'll see the next year moving up to the 25,000 because we're about $1,500 short, a little more this current year from one set because the prices on everything went up. So you'll see move trending down. I had that number go up, but again, I can't foresee the future 20 years out what that price is going to be. The Hearst tool replacement, we're doing it currently. We're in the process of that. The 35 next 2 years. You'll see 15 years out, it goes down to 2040, 2041, $80,000. Again, it's a guess. The rescue replacement gear, it's a $20,000 line, goes all the way across. That is the rescue truck. Instead of we agreed to not purchasing a brand new vehicle and all the equipment in it. So as we go year to year, we replace the equipment that's needed to be replaced. And then that'll keep a replacement cycle going on the equipment. The truck will be separate. Engine 1 is the next to go down the line. That's all the way out to 34, 35. That's the 09. Engine 2 is the 95. It was placed in reserve 24, 25 this current year because the used Quint was purchased. Again, that doesn't show a replacement. The tanker comes down to, it was bought in 21. So that's not until 51. So my list doesn't go out to 51. But that's, again, I'm anticipating 30 years in all of our fire apparatus, our big vehicles. Engine 4 shows it out in 34, 35. I think I might have made a mistake on that one, but get to that. The ladder / Quint would have been this year for the 1.8 million. That is the actual replacement for engine 2. And then you go down to the forestry truck. That's in 51 also, so that's put out 30 years. The rescue truck, the 1.2 million. You move down the list to the service truck. We have the 25. Just to be clear, we do not have the funds to purchase a truck this year, even with the 2 years of financing that we put forward, due to the prices of vehicles going up. Alan could touch on that later on. Then you go down to hazmat meters. We're looking at 27, 28. Nope, sorry, 26, 27. We need to place our meters, and that should be every 10 years. So the bottom line, you look at over the next 20 years, it's about $6.5 million worth of capital equipment need to be purchased for emergency services in the fire company. That averages out to about $327,000 a year. So it's a big expense. But again, I've submitted 5 year, 10 years, 20-year plans many times in the past. And we're in a situation now where we haven't followed it. And working with the current selectmen, you're looking at a plan trying to address things. So we had the plan of, seeing if they wanted to do bonds and things like that. If you did, rescue and a ladder together, that's about a $3 million bond for 10 years. That means no more capital for 10 years from the fire company, as in vehicle purchases. Then the following 10 years would be engine 4, engine 1 for 1.8 million. That's another 10 years, no more vehicles come up. Then you move down to 20, maybe at this point, before 2045, 2055, it would be the tanker and the brush truck for 1.5. Obviously, on the first cycle are your 2 most expensive vehicles that are on the slate for it. But this is laid out right now, a plan. I can't tell you what the prices in the next 5 years are going to be for fire apparatus, because back in, what was it, 09, an engine was about $600,000. Now they're almost 1.1 million. So these numbers are astronomical compared to what they used to be. Back in 2009, when I first became chief, a Quint ladder truck was on a flyer for $650,000. Today they're selling for 1.8 to 2.5. So,
Chief, did you say that you didn't have enough, the service truck isn't ordered?
In
How
order.
much did that go up?
Well, Alan will have that answer for you. Because Alan did the research on that, because we're trying to start the plan of using the service truck for 5 years and rotating it to the highway department to get the next 15 years out of it. So it'll be like 20 years out of service out of the vehicle and actually use at the end. So
Okay.
substantial use at the end.
And then a few things regarding this. So I know there was been talk in the past about looking for grants for some of the fire apparatus and trucks. Is there any progress being made on that side of it?
No.
None at all. Because I know there are some municipalities that have received grants for fire apparatus. So maybe as a joint effort, the town and the fire department
Yeah.
can
So
work on that stuff.
when you say no, no, because you don't have anybody that can help you with grants, or no, you just haven't seen anything out there?
There are
that we
AFG
pu-
grants out there you can apply for. Every time we apply for something, well, currently we don't have a grant writer. We were trying to use the town's grant writer to assist us, and the fire company went out and started interviewing grant writers. A lot of the grant writers, are percentage of what the grant is, they get paid. We don't have the funds up front guaranteed to do any of this, so we can't lock in a grant writer, say, yes, we'll pay you this much money, because I can't guarantee anything to anybody when we're not guaranteed the funds through the town to do it. So I can't pay somebody to do something with no funds to pay them with. So
Right.
that's where we're stuck in the middle of it.
Right.
The grant writer that the town has that I know is kind of at capacity, and he's just doing our usual things, but is he just hourly?
You know, we pay him by the hour. The last thing he did for us was the steep grants from last year. He would be willing to work on steep grants again, but he said that's the limit. He's only gonna do what he's done in the past.
Yeah.
He can't take anything new because his regular job at the state is now more hours and more commitment.
I
So
think
it is a role of our admin finance officer. It's
and
one
I-
of their duties.
Yep.
So as we're interviewing for this position, it might be something that we want to
100%
stress a
agree.
little more and look for that in some of the experience. And I know our last admin finance officer didn't have that experience. So this is our opportunity to try to focus on someone that might have at least a little of that we can build on, because that'll be huge with doing this. My second question, and you guys might not like this question, but it's just to start the conversation and to understand if there's options for it. When we talk about the ladder truck,
Mhm.
and we've seen the benefit of having it and things like that, is it worth, and you might say no right off the bat, but is it worth at least exploring the option of refurbishing that one to get us 10 years out of that truck? Well, we still have Rescue 2 here, because I don't know the time frame of how long that takes to refurb.
Yeah, so when we originally brought that truck forward, they just for a paint job on it, doing no maintenance on it, was $85,000.
Right, I remember that part.
I don't think that's wise for the town to spend money on a 30-year-old truck already, to put 85 just for a paint job. You can, like what Bob and I have discussed before, is trying to separate the ladder truck and a rescue truck to separate years, because those are the big trucks.
Right,
So maybe move engine 4 up to with the rescue truck and do the rescue and engine 4 in 1 year. And then 10-year, actually, it depends on how we're gonna do this. If we did a 10-year bond package, separate them out. And then maybe buy another used one for $500,000, because it's gonna cost you at least $350,000 to $400,000 to refurb a truck properly. So instead of doing that, buy a 10-year-old ladder for the next 10 years before you go into a cycle replacing it.
and that'd be better than refurbing. the one.
You're better off because it's already 30 years old. You're gonna now want it to be 40 years old. We're already, if we ordered the truck today, brand new one, you're looking at 4 to 5 years before it's delivered to this town. So no matter what, if we ordered it today, it's 4 to 5 years out. So if we wait another 10 years, it's gonna be a 45-year-old truck by the time we replace it. And at that point in time, it's not cost effective to put the money into a vehicle like that.
And you're still looking at the 75-foot one.
Well, talk with the vendors, between the 75-foot and 100-footer is about $20,000 to $25,000. It's a single rear axle, same truck, the newer technology, they could put, it's always a fly section on a ladder that they don't put on. He said, makes sense to do 100-footer because we can build you a 75-footer, you're saving $20,000, but that 25 feet makes a big difference when you're reaching for something.
Is that the,
Um,
you just got one at Mashantucket, right?
We have a
Oh,
tower ladder,
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's different.
yes. That's a 103-foot tower ladder. Again, it's where it's got 10 rear axles with a big
Okay.
bucket in the front, which we don't have that, so.
So what's your estimate on, have you seen 10-year-old ones out there?
They're online. Again, it's all over the place. You gotta look. We were lucky enough to fall into Colchester.
Right.
So it would be, do some homework to get you some prices on what the actual 10-year-old one would be, or 15-year-old one. So we get another 10 years out of it, ensuring, it's not going to be, costing us, a lot of money to extend the life out of it. Again, the mindset with the 30-year-old one we have now was to get 5 years out of it. His understanding is if we were to buy it today, we were 4 to 5 years before the new one was going to come in anyways.
And so traditionally, when we order it, so for this 1.8 million for the new one.
Yeah.
We put a deposit down now and then
you
have to
it.
pay for it when it's delivered. So we're not looking to
No, you're right.
encumber the 1.8
So
next year, technically.
the last one, I think it's, how did we do it? I think it was, you don't even pay at the front, you pay at the end.
Okay.
So the town signs a letter, a commitment to buy. And then they build the vehicle, and when you go up, we go there and pick it up, or they deliver it to us, is when the town gives them the check and pays for the vehicle.
So there are other options that if we don't bond or if we come up
Right.
with a solution, if we know it's 5-year build, then we put away a certain amount every year for these next 5 years.
Right. Yep.
Okay, all right.
So Chief, we talked about, as you said, possibly a 10-year old truck for 500,000, just to use a number, which would take 1.8 down by 1.3, right? We'd save 1.3 million. Is that 750,000 on engine 4 in year 10? What's that number today? If it's 750 10 years from now, what's the number today?
That's about today's number.
Okay, so it's
Again.
probably not the number 10 years from now.
No, again, I'm giving you rough numbers for today, with the exact vehicle, pretty much the exact vehicle we have sitting in the bay. We have options to, change up things, different style cabs, things like that. Right now it's a commercial cab, international, which, foresee us staying with something like that. So there's options to scale up or actually more scale down for a smaller truck, but have the same capabilities.
Okay, so by moving engine 4 to the next year, moving getting the 10-year-old Quint or 100-foot. Now we're looking at going from 3 million to 2.4 million roughly, which the bond would drop by 600,000. But then the bond 10 years from now would increase, right? So, because that's when you'll be trying to do the
That's
Quint.
where
Well, at least you're evening it out. You're not going from 3 million down to 1.8 million. It's more of an even across the board. Yeah, and I think that also comes into play as if you ordered a new truck 10 years, they order the Quint 10 years from now, and it takes 3 to 4 years to build it.
So right now, they're at 4 years to build. We've already had multiple meetings with vendors on rescue trucks and ladder trucks over the last couple of months. They're giving us at least a 4-year build time for their vehicles.
Could you get us if you could just start looking, get us maybe a more precise number on what a 10-year Quint or 10-year ladder truck is worth? So when we have our next capital meeting.
Oh, you want to see if we were to buy one, what we
Yeah,
can get?
like if you
I
go
go
look.
online and give you a list of them. They're on used truck sales all the time. So I could send you a list of things that would be comparable or something that we look at.
So if we get something that's 10 years old, conceivably with maybe a refurbished 10 years from now, we get 20 years out of it, correct? You're looking at 30 years on the truck. So I think there's ways to look at this. I think the big pop thing is when the selectmen think about how we're gonna finance this and what the total number is, the Board of Finance last year put us in that 750, 850 range as a yearly number for capital. And this could obviously skew that number upward. But is it gonna skew it up? If we do a bond and it's the same payment every year for basically the next 10 years, we still it's gonna be consistent. Any other questions on as far as the fire company goes, as far as trucks or?
Is there an opportunity, I don't know what, you work for Mashantucket as your day job. Is there any opportunity to partner with them to get any of their old stuff? Because we're neighbors?
They just replaced all their vehicles within the last year. They
And
replaced,
did what with them?
they sold them to a used truck vendor. And again, those trucks are all 30 years old, basically the ones they got rid of. Tanks leaking, suspensions blown out, so those were in rough shape. But yes, they replaced both engines and a tower ladder within a year, so.
Okay.
So 30 years from now, maybe.
So I think once we have a more locked in number, what it looks like for the next 30 years, and I like the idea of going with a used ladder, get another 10 years out of that. Once we buy it, we don't have to wait 4 years for it. Moved engine 4 to the first year. I think those are things that will even out the plan. We want to keep it as an even plan if possible. And then we as selectmen have to look at what is the best way to finance. Are we financing it? Are we saving? Are we bonding? And I don't know how true it is. I don't do a lot of bonding, but I'm told that when you get under $3 million, it's a little bit tougher to bond. I don't know if that's true or not.
Is there any benefit in looking to do the same thing with a rescue truck? A
So-
few years old compared to new?
If we're going down a slippery slope, you're not replacing vehicles, you're kicking the can. You're gonna get 10 years out of this truck, 10 years out of that truck. You buy a truck, it's good for 30 years, and you move down the road. If we keep buying 10-year-old trucks, at the end of the day, it's gonna cost the town more money, because we're gonna be buying new trucks every 10 years instead of getting 30-year lifespan out of them.
Well, if it's a 10-year-old truck, wouldn't we get 20 years out of it? If you keep them 30
But again, is it,
years.
how much money are you gonna put into it to make it the vehicle you need, instead of just a vehicle you bought because you're saving money?
So are you saying a rescue truck in North Stonington has much different needs than a rescue
You
truck in
build
a
it-
town, a
you
different
build-
town?
Yeah, well, every town, every rescue is built differently. It's how you lay your equipment out, how you foresee your target hazards for your district are. So we lay our trucks out different. No, you can buy a rescue truck. Now I could say, all right, I want the same truck as Old Mystic, and say it'll work for us. Yes, it would probably work for us, but, you can get a truck that's similar with what you're looking for, the tasks we're trying to complete, and our target hazards for the town, we need to meet with our apparatus, and that's what we're trying to do. Constantly, if we're just gonna keep buying used vehicles, maintenance costs in your apparatus line's gonna go up. And we're never gonna have a current fleet. We're always gonna have that used old fleet that we're protecting our residents with. So we're working with you buying a used ladder truck to show that, yes, there is a need for it. We've used it, 8 different chimney fires already, this last winter, and other incidents, but, that is just to show that, yes, there's a need, and it's replacing an engine. So we're working that way through, but I don't think it's cost effective to keep buying used apparatus for the town. I don't see, that happening anywhere. People continually buying used trucks and just replacing their fleet with used vehicles.
Okay.
Chief, could you tell me, as a firefighter in North Stonington, in order of importance, what are your 3 top trucks? As far as overall use, the advantages of having it, what it means to the fire company? If you had to rank the top 3 trucks.
It'd be the rescue truck, the ladder now, because that's first out to every fire type call. Because that replaced our first new engine. And then probably your tanker, because we have no water in this town, and your tanker needs to be there, provide the water.
Right.
But every one of these vehicles plays a crucial role in a fire. If you take one of these vehicles out of that plan, the plan falls apart. Everyone does a job. So, like the ladder truck's first at the driveway, engine 1's at the end of the driveway, pumping up the driveway, the tanker's bringing water, engine 4 is going to, we'll say the village, pumping the water out of the village, filling up the tanker to bring the water back to the fire. So if you were to delete any one of those vehicles, the system falls apart. That's just the initial attack on a fire, those are the vehicles you would need.
Now, engine 2 and engine 4 identical?
No.
They're not.
Engine 1, engine 2 are similar. Engine 1 is the 09 with 1,000 gallons of water. Engine 2 is the 95. It's in reserve now, and that's got the 750 gallons of water.
Okay.
And which one was refurbed?
Engine 2.
And what year was that?
I want to say around 2012. And that was to extend the life 10 years, which we've exceeded that too.
So of your bigger trucks, that's the one that's your oldest truck, engine 2.
But yep, that's the one that's in reserve, which we said we're not going to refurb or do anything. That truck right now is filling in for any truck that goes out, especially in October. All our trucks go out for maintenance, except for the ladder that already had all its maintenance done for the year. As the trucks go out for service, that engine comes out of the garage, gets put in service, so we're not short of vehicle during that 2 or 3 days it's out in Waterford at shipments get service done for the year, so. That truck we're planning on maintaining it and doing annual services on it, keeping it until it's no longer cost effective, and then we'll notify you that these things cost us way too much money, but as of now, It has cost us no extra money other than the, normal maintenance for it.
Any other questions for the chief? Brett, you good?
Good for now.
Okay, thanks, Charlie.
Yep.
Alan, or you want to go Logan?
The ambulance capital is quite simple. One ambulance replaced every 5 years. I would like to replace, keep the replacements the same. So we got a smaller ambulance this time to replace H100. And then 5 years from now, we'll replace H101, which is the bigger unit. With that air ride system, we could probably potentially look into remounting it. It shouldn't be a problem because it has an air ride system on it. It's just, we're gonna have to think about or look at where the truck box is, where the patient's treated. We have to look at it when we're getting ready to replace it. So if it's cracked, if, you know, it has dents or it has scratches on it, it all is gonna have to come up to a plan and how we tie things in. I think I don't know the current cost to remount a vehicle. I know that 4 or 5 years ago, it was about 120,000 to remount it and repaint everything. So that's just something that we can look at in the near future. Our new truck's coming in the next 2 or 3 weeks, the new truck. And then we'll start the rotation after that.
So we never got an update on the change of the new truck. Did we change the type we were getting? I know you were going to the Board of Finance, but as selectmen, we never got an update on, Bob might have, but we never heard about the change between the two types of trucks.
You didn't watch the meeting?
No, I did not watch that Board of Finance.
So the Board of Finance approved for us to get the small box ambulance with a price difference of
I
28,000.
think it went from, the price of the truck was 150 versus 120 something, but we had a 172.5 in the budget.
Yep.
So it covered it, except for the retrofit, which you were gonna do through the, sale of the old ambulance.
That's what was agreed upon.
We won't be asking the public for any additional money, so we budgeted 172.5. That was supposed to be for the van type of ambulance with the retrofit and the financing charge. We got the financing back on this ambulance. It still stayed under the 172. I think it was 169 something. So it's about $3,000 was still to the good. We can put that towards the retrofit plus what he can sell the old ambulance for. So we don't have to go back to the taxpayers for any reason at all.
It just would have, would have liked to decided that and talked about it on the selectmen before we went to the Board of Finance with it, but
He went to the Board of Finance.
I know, but it's a change that we voted on first in our budget to send.
But I thought I told you, I thought we had that discussion. This is what was happening. That's why I
Said there
went to
was-
the Board of
It was
Finance.
the
meeting.
potential that it happened, but no, nothing against you. It's just the process, that's all. If there was a change like that to hear it. So then we know when the public asks what's happening, that we're fully aware.
So I fill you in on so much, I don't know how I missed that one, so sorry about that.
No worries.
Besides the ambulance replacement every 5 years, there be maybe small capital upgrades such as like the power loaders. We're on year 6 of the power loaders and the power cots. They recommend every 10 years. They tried to get me to buy a new power loader and stretcher for the new ambulance. I told them that it's not in our budget. And it's not something we're looking to do. I know that every piece of equipment is different in every organization. My past service is still using their original power loader and power stretcher, and they purchased those about 12 years ago. So we have quite a few years left on that, and I don't foresee any other capital, but I can't obviously say for certain that there won't be any other capital.
Well,
So-
is there a reason that the replacement recommendations are so different for ambulances versus 30 years of a fire truck?
The fire department is set by NFPA, and they go by NFPA guidelines and how they are governed for apparatus. OEMS for our ambulances or for ambulances in the state of Connecticut are based off of the DOT inspection and OEMS inspection if they are good for the next year or not. I don't know if you guys remember last year when we were coming into the capital discussion of the new ambulance, but we were told by shipments that 100 was most likely not going to pass DOT inspection because it needed fuel lines to be replaced, and then it had some rot and rusting on the frame. and on the quarter panels. So the fire department and the ambulance are governed by two different bodies.
Yeah, it just seems, 5 years seems like a very short period of time.
That's 10 years.
10 years. Yeah, each ambulance will have 10 years.
I'm sorry.
We buy one every 5 years, but it lasts 10 years. So we buy one now, and we'll have that 10 until 10 years, for 10 years. We buy one 5 years from now, that'll last 10 years.
Thank you.
So we're always in a 5-year rotation.
And the reason that 10 years, Nicole, is they just run so often. Unlike the fire trucks who have the occasional fire, but maybe not daily. The ambulance is going out 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day. And it's just a lot more wear and tear.
I just heard every 5 years. So
Oh.
in my mind, yeah, thinking, wow,
It's every 10 years.
thank you.
So basically what you're saying with if we can stick to this plan with the every 5 years and 10 years of life for it's gonna, you'll have a small capital ask for miscellaneous items occasionally when it comes to capital.
Yes,
Depending
sir.
on the year and depending on what you need, but,
Yes, sir.
okay. So it's not gonna be a real needle mover from the ambulance at this point, except for the year that we do the ambulance.
Yes, sir. And
I can't see the price, Charlie. What year is it? Okay,
They're out there. Expensive.
yeah. It's not white though.
$85,000.
As I said before, I don't care what color the truck is if my house is burning down. All right, Logan, thank you for that.
Oh, no problem.
And I apologize to the Board of Selectmen if we didn't have more of a discussion on that. I thought we did. I know I told you I was going to the Board of Finance and with Logan to do this, but I apologize. Maybe we should have been at the Board of Selectmen, we maybe voted on it. I'm not sure, but okay. That's it for that. Alan?
So I just want to clarify for myself. Brett, you want to know what like mowing and weed whacking cost per each building in town?
Yeah, I mean, if you have that
But-
estimate, that'd be great.
I don't have that one with me. Donnie's annual report, he just actually finished for last year, has like the regular maintenance, like every time I went to the firehouse to fix something, every time I went to the rec building to fix
Gotcha.
something, all that's in here. He has it in his computer already where we can say, he says usually it takes about 5 hours a week at the senior center to mow between weed whacking and everything, to clean the parking lot up, any garbage, anything like that. He has that broken down for parking lot, so I can get you that one. That one's easy.
Okay. Great.
It's just, I gotta get it out of him because I don't have that one in this report.
Yeah, anything that gives a little timeline, because I know you guys have a lot going on, and maybe it's worth looking into in the future if we sub out some of that stuff to people that look at the whole picture, they take care of the weeds, they're doing it all. It might be more cost effective, it might not be, but at least get a handle on that. For
I
some
will
of the
say
stuff.
this, when the school had this building, it looked a lot better than it does now. I mean, I remember saying something to Donnie about the side door here, and he was over here within an hour pulling weeds by himself. These weeds that are like 5 feet tall. If that becomes a main entrance to this room, and coming in the front door today to see the superintendent, there's weeds all over the place. It's not a very attractive building for a municipal building. I mean, you go to, I hate to compare, but you go to Stonington's Town Hall and everything's manicured. It's different town, different, but it almost seems like it's not, we cut the grass, but with the little extra wear, when the school had it, and they did have a crew that did this, but it was always like newly mulched and there was no weeds, everything was cut and just looked a little bit
Yeah, because
nicer.
I think they always did that before graduation and stuff like that, so that lasted a good chunk of the year. But I noticed that, I mean, we don't have the whole crew to be able to be out there picking weeds all.
No, we
all
did
day, so.
discuss this morning about possibly moving away from mulch and going to a barrier then stone, preferably white stone or something that would be easier to maintain than what we have now, which is that we just go through the mulch and the mulch gets old and then it gets moldy. And so we had that discussion this morning a bit, actually.
We talked about that just for the fact of the stone should last a long time. Where the mulch you got to do every year to keep the color and everything, and keep up with it a lot more. And hopefully the animals would stay out of the stone more than anything else. Like the birds are in there and everything. Hopefully they'd stay out of the stone a little bit more.
And what about crack repair and seal for this property?
I haven't done it yet.
Is that on the
So
capital schedule
this
or is that?
parking lot was trying to decide what we were doing with the building. And it was gonna be, when we had it sealed, it was crack sealing's part of that whole
Right.
thing. So when we decide to put that on the agenda to get done, that'll be part of it. When we decide, like I said, what everything's gonna be done here, so.
Okay. Yeah, the only reason I realized that as I was pulling in tonight, the cracks are more like weed barriers
Yeah.
in the lot. So it's just,
Yeah.
I know we rotate the other things. We just did the rec facility and the old firehouse.
Yep.
I didn't know if
It's seen
this
its
was
demand
on a
done.
list or if this is still up in
It's on
discussion.
the list. It's just, what do we want to do first, to be
Yeah.
honest?
Okay.
So after the mowing, get back at the service truck for the fire department while Charlie's here. I had looked into 350s and 250s for the two. I recommended that if we were gonna take a truck over, we get it to a 350. We have, everything we have is a 350 except for the two 150s that I'd like to make 250s at some point. Just to be able to take a little bit of weight, because by the time you go pick up garbage or go pick anything up, it does weigh a little bit. The mow trailer would be better on the 250. It'd haul it a lot better than the 150. If we were gonna go, so base, like if you go on Ford's website and I have the couple different pricings here from different dealers. The difference in a 250 and a 350 chassis is $1,000. There's no difference in the chassis. When I sat down with one of the dealers, we went through and we built the truck, both identical trucks, service body, everything we wanted in it, the strobes, the chevron in the back, completely done. We put a plow on both trucks to see what the difference would be if we bought it with a truck or if I bought it aftermarket. There was a couple $1,000 difference. If I bought it with a truck, it was like, I believe it was $2,500 cheaper to buy it with the truck. And even if it sat at the firehouse with it not on the truck, if I had a plow break down, I could go steal that plow. Say I blew a motor in the middle of a storm, I could go steal that brand new plow and put it on one of the old trucks. There was a benefit to that, in my opinion. We had a spare plow in case something broke. I mean, we have five pickups with plows on them, so that would be a 6-1 in case. Last year we had two headlights break down, and that's part of the plow. So it would have been nice in the middle of the storm. You can just go swap the plow and have the headgear back, and then you're good to go with lights again. There's a couple benefits to that. Like I said, being that the money's a lot cheaper rather than 5 years down the road, or it's say $15,000 rather than $13,000. It is a little bit of savings there when you have it come with the truck. The total cost for the 350, and this was with everything on it, the fender flares on the inside of the fender wheel wells. Like I said, the strobe lights, it comes fully done, ready to go to work, was 83, 352, 60 was one of the quotes.
What was the price for the one that we talked about originally?
So the 250,
That was coming in at 50.
the 250 I priced out was 56,515. I can't remember because I couldn't find it on that. I couldn't read that email, to be honest, from the salesman. I couldn't remember if that came with a plow or without. I need to look. I can't remember. Yeah, I gotta look back and find the other email. That was back in April though, sadly, that we got those prices. That was only one of the dealerships I could come up with. I couldn't remember the other salesman's name.
That's the guy that did all the state bidding for.
That's Gengris. Yep, that's a state bid. It's the same place we got actually truck one.
So that truck right now is 56.
That was 56,515.
Did we re-quote, have that?
Last time I had it requoted was in April because that was the updated quotes from before. I have to look back. I grabbed the wrong folder last night or this afternoon. That is in my other folder. I have all the other quotes.
So I think that'd be good information to have. You know, that would be good information to have of what that actual same truck would be now. If there was a price difference, some trucks have come down a little bit,
Yep.
some have gone up. But that's the truck that we presented to the public during the budget. So I'd hate to change it completely
I believe when
and say, hey, now instead of 53, we're at 83 and we're not getting it now because now we have to wait.
I believe when we had originally looked at the pricing, we could have got the 250 without a service body. I think that was just a fleet side body, if I remember correctly, when I priced out the 56. But that might have been with the plow on it. So the service body might have been the change in the increase, if I remember correctly.
And
'Cause I
is
remember
that
we
through the
quoted it.
dealer doing the body or outsourcing the body?
So that was the dealer having somebody else put the body on.
Which
Yep.
then there's an additional markup for that, so.
With the body and the mounting. So that was coming from the dealer, like I said, from the dealer, both places. So both with both model trucks. There's only one other thing I was gonna look into that I haven't yet. I have to find out if you could, so this was going to a Ford dealer and having their company put the body on, whether it be Hartford Truck or whoever it ends up being. I think from what I've heard from talking to different people in different towns, I believe you can buy a truck from Hartford Truck. So they already round all those numbers right in. You call them and say, I want a 350 service body, single wheel, and they give you a price on it. I don't know if it's going to be cheaper, more expensive, or how that comes, because then it comes from the body company. Because I know during COVID, they were doing that where like the Ford dealers couldn't even get trucks, but for some reason, Hartford Truck had ordered 15 of these trucks and they got 5 in, and then they sold like hotcakes because nobody else had a truck they needed. So I do have to find out if we can do that or not.
Chief, can you tell me all the uses of this service truck from the fire department's view, not as a future town garage truck, but as from the fire department? What do you use this truck for exactly?
Well, to back up a little bit, this original number was put forward over 2.5, almost 3 years ago when the budget process started. The number that was put in was what was given to me by Donnie at the meeting that night. What the current number for the state bid was for the vehicle we're looking for. Originally, we wanted a 350. We discussed, Donnie was saying the 250 was fine because we're trying to do a 5-year rotation into the highway department. Obviously, not understanding what they're doing now, they're holding bed sanders, things like that. A 250 can't do it, but to make it across the board a usable vehicle, that's what we wanted to go with. But currently, it's used for towing our boat, our ATV. The boat goes to, part of the Marine group now, so we go to all over basically Connecticut. If there's water emergencies, we respond with that. We tow our ATV and trailer. It's used for additional wire down calls to support road closures. And it would be used, this vehicle would be used for additional personnel at the fire scenes and for classes. When they take classes in like Willimantic Fire School, they could load all their equipment in a vehicle like that and take it with them.
So if we weren't turning this truck over to the highway department in 5 years, what's the truck that you can, if you were gonna just keep this truck? What truck can you live with? Can you live with the 250 instead of a 350?
If we weren't gonna rotation, we could survive with a 250.
So the truck that we went to the citizens, the residents with was $50,000, 25,000 a year for 2 years for a service truck for the fire company. At the time, when there wasn't a lot of talk about turning it back over to the garage, I know that was a plan in the past. We could, Alan, a question for you. If we went back to the truck that we presented to the taxpayer for the fire company for a service truck to tow the boat, the ATV and the trailer, how much does that truck cost? Forget that, you guys will never see this truck. It was just strictly his truck.
56,515.
So it's about 6,000 more than what we quoted 2.5 years ago, which makes sense with inflation.
I can tell you if that's with the plow.
Well, forget the plow. Forget the plow.
That's what I need to look at though.
I don't remember the chief saying anything about plowing snow when he gave me the,
Well, originally, our package we did have the plow on it. I think Brett brought it up, said we didn't need it. And then Donnie and everybody else at the meeting at the time. I disagree. Again, I'm one of the big people responding to those calls. When I'm responding R1 to a medical call with an ambulance and you can't get up a driveway when someone's having cardiac arrest, waiting 4, 5, 10 minutes for a highway truck to get there, life or death. If I had a plow on the front of the vehicle to push open the driveway, the ambulance to back up to your house, it would be nice. Have we had this over the last few years? No, not much snow. Hasn't been an issue, but I've had to trudge up driveways with the ambulance crews dragging Stokes baskets to get to people when 3 feet of snow drifts.
so what you're saying is that when we get into the winter, it's snow season, that truck's always gonna have the plow mounted on. Because you're not gonna have the time to go
It
mount
would,
it.
yes. So if we have a snowstorm coming, obviously you would have it on the front of the truck and you would have it ready to go, respond to medical calls with the ambulance. Because if you get there, you don't want to find out once you pull up to the driveway that you can't make the driveway. You'd want to have a vehicle there to do it. So that's what we would have.
Typically, how long does it take to put the plow on the truck? An hour,
3 minutes.
That's it?
Yeah.
Why everything else is there, just,
Oh, you literally drive into it. The plows that I would like to move to are non-electric or non-hydraulically mounted to the truck. So the ones we have now, the Boss plows, you drive into the plow, you hook the wiring up, you press a button and the headgear falls into the truck and it locks itself automatically.
okay, so that's what you want. Forget this truck ever coming to you. You're never gonna touch this truck. You're never gonna see this truck.
Yeah.
What kind of plow does he need on it?
Same thing we run, 8 foot straight blade or an
Okay,
8 plow.
so
whatever it
that,
is.
how much is that truck with the plow
With
then?
the plow on it. So Brett, I was just looking in that quote and for you as well, Bob and Nicole, that 56,515 was no service body, no plow, straight fleet side, 250. The 83,352 was with the service body, the chevron, the lights with everything on it, with an 8.5 foot HD2 straight blade on that. That was that number's not right. That was the 83,352. So if I had to guess that if I was to take a 250 for Charlie to use, we put a utility body on it. I'm going to guess the utility body and the snow plow was $25,000 alone.
But
on-
we weren't putting a service body on it for the fire department, correct?
That's what I requested. But I requested a utility body with it, so we had storage space for our equipment that we're carrying with the truck. But then I'm not sure of the discussions that happened outside of the meeting I was at, what the truck was changed to. But again, we originally submitted a 350 utility body truck with a plow. It got changed down to a 250, I guess, straight body without a plow. So, the request and what was approved are two separate things.
Okay, but the bottom line is tow the boat, tow the trailer, tow the ATV, carry equipment, carry guys, go to meetings. That truck would suffice without thinking you're gonna turn it over to so you got a brand new truck that you're gonna have for 20 or 30 years that the highway garage is never gonna see.
75,000, I would guess, if you were to put a plow and utility body on it. If I was to take a guess from April's numbers, because if you take the 56,000, which was with the lights and the chevron, and you put the utility body on it, that's roughly 25,000, a touch over. And you have 56,000, I would say roughly 75, closer to 80,000, somewhere in that.
I think if in order to get, there's only two ways you're gonna get that extra money. It's either go to the Board of Finance and look for an appropriation or put another 25,000 in next year's budget and wait another year for the truck. To me, it depends how fast, if the fire company wants the truck faster instead of later, I would drop back to a truck that they can have and use. It's good for them and not one that's transferred to the highway department later. So it's either go to the Board of Finance, you gotta go through the Board of Selectmen first, because we have to ask for the appropriation. We have to approve to go to the Board of Finance and then ask them for 25, 30,000, whatever it is. Or ask them to put in next year's capital for another 25,000. Now you wait another year and a half, because we're not even building that budget yet, almost 2 years. So, I mean, depends on how much the fire company needs the truck and what their actual use is gonna be without worrying about. But I know the plan would be nice to give it to you guys, and now you have a new truck every 5 years. But that's not really what we told the taxpayer.
If it came down that we decided to go with the 350, the utility body for the 83,352, 60, in year 2028 and 2029, I could take out my replacement of truck 10, which is the 150 at the transfer station that I wanted to change to a 250. But if we could save a little bit of money and get a 350 instead, that'd be perfect. And then at the dump, there would be a truck with a plow in case it was the middle of a snowstorm and Donna needed to push the parking lot.
But then
quick.
we'd have to still replace the fire department's truck that
But
year
then
too.
I would take mine out of the capital.
Right, but then what would we replace the fire trucks one with? Then we go to a straight truck then?
What's
with a
that?
plow? In
No,
5
you
years
just-
from now?
So then I would take mine out of the capital, and then that would be when that should be. Well, I could push it out a year, so then it would be when Charlie would get another service truck.
But
and
we're
then that
still
would
at
come to
about
us.
$30,000 more than what we originally.
No matter what, you go back to the number where the current price with the straight body, everything is $7,000 over budget. On that, and those are old numbers, right? So still currently don't have the funds to purchase the vehicle today.
Well, we don't know. So trucks have come down since over the past well, especially during COVID, but they've come down even further recently. So I guess until we have solid numbers, we wouldn't even know how to move forward.
I can call, Gordon and give him this quote number from April and have him update it to now. I don't know what he's gonna say. I can ask him. Send him an email and say, hey, can you update this to today's numbers?
I was thinking getting the fire company, getting a number, as Brett said, if the numbers change, getting a number that we can live with to go to the Board of Finance for 6 or 7,000 is a lot different than 30,000. Secondly, gives the chief what he needs, a brand new truck that's gonna last a number of years. And then we worry about the public works truck, whenever you have it. When's that in your budget, Alan? What year?
So that truck is in 2028, 2029. So
Uh-huh.
I'd moved some things around because my 20-year capital plan originally was 3 years for 2 pieces of equipment and 4 years for one. So I had to kind of move some things around to make it work for what we actually did, with 2 pieces being 4 years and one being 3 years. So that's how I tried to work it out. And truck 15's having some little issues here and there, so.
So what year do you have, just a guess, that truck you just talked about at the transfer station, what year is that in your budget?
2028, 2029,
And how much do you have, what's the dollar value you have in there?
76,262,
For about 5 years from now, 4 years from now?
roughly.
Okay.
Chief, do we currently have a truck, service or rescue that, has a plow on it that you can take to the scene?
No.
How have we done that in the past? We put the public works department on call and say, hey, there's a storm coming.
So we all operate on town band frequency. So we get to them and say, send the nearest truck, goes, hey, we're heading to Hangman Hill Road. We got a medical or a structure fire. There's been times they've beaten us there, and there's other times that we were waiting. I remember dragging fire hose up a 200-foot driveway because they weren't able to get there in time. We can't wait. So we trudged through the snow pile that the town, when they pull out past the driveway, over that drift and it up to the driveway. So, it's not always there in time. 9 times out of 10, probably they can be. That 10th time, I don't want to be my loved one that we're waiting for to open a driveway up for them. So,
So Chief, do most towns around us have plow trucks
yes.
on their fleet?
Yep. If you go down to Pawcatuck, you'll see the Pawcatuck Fire Department does. I think you look at, I think Quambog has it. I think the borough might. A lot in the area, like a lot of the fire districts do, to keep a lot of their own properties open and to assist on calls.
How does Preston or Allentown do it? Do we know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Something to look into. I'm uncomfortable with it because the way we've tried to be transparent with the community, especially during the budget season, and move things forward, and then to change it up after the budget
I'll agree with you on
goes
that. Colin.
forward.
But
I
also,
really am,
yeah.
that's what makes me uncomfortable, just saying, hey, let's move forward with this way, try to go through Board of Finance. I feel like this should have been the major push before the budget went through. And
This
been fully
was
transparent.
made the big push to the budget, and I got pushed back from this table. You specifically that said you could get away with 250, you don't need a 350 for what you're doing with it. You, again, I wasn't at the meeting to decide to cut the plow off of it and everything else. So again, it's a little disappointing when you put a package forward with your budget of the vehicle you're requesting, and you find out after the process that things were cut that you didn't agree to. So there's a lot of discussions that, you say we weren't transparent. The fire company was very transparent with the vehicle.
I can tell you for we did not say cut the plow. We didn't cut the plow after any discussion. We didn't go through the quote and say, wipe this plow out and get it to $50,000. That did not happen. So I resent that you say it like that
Okay.
without the facts on that.
I'll pull up the meeting for you.
Okay. I might have questioned the plow, but there was no point where
But the
we
number
cut the
was
plow.
through the highway department and the conversations between you and the highway department instead of me and you. That's where there was confusion, where you're saying he was giving the numbers, but it was a vehicle for us. So then the plow, and there was a lot of confusion back and forth. I remember that meeting. And do we need a plow? Do you not need a plow? We don't, we wanted a plow to provide a better service to the community during an emergency situation. We're not trying to maintain, we're trying to provide a better service to the residents in North Stonington. If you want to stay at 250, it's actually reducing the vehicle we have now. We have a 350 now. We're going down to a 250. With a straight body, so be it, without a plow.
Where did that service truck come from?
Which one?
We didn't have a service truck a few years
It
ago,
was our old
correct?
brush truck.
Right. So
Right.
we didn't have one. So you have one now.
Right.
So now we're replacing it because it's in the fleet.
Right.
So as we look at things, we have to look at the whole package for the whole town and what's going on. What departments need things, what doesn't need things. And we try to do what's most cost effective and what services the community the best. So as we look at this, I don't recall that conversation where we said, cut that out. We're going to approve it without the plow. So that's where I'm questioning that side of the thing. And also it is not as cost effective is going through the dealer and having the dealer put on those plows as they mark up. So it is more cost effective to order a truck and then add that through there's local companies here that service a lot of town vehicles and other fire vehicles on the subcontractor level. So they're not going through the dealership. They're going to the same companies that the dealers send their vehicles to get this stuff on, and they're saving that markup. So if that's a separate discussion, if we go with this truck and say, hey, we need a plow and that plow is $6,000, then that's a separate discussion. But just ordering the package through one of the dealers is not a cost-effective way of doing it. And I don't remember the plow being such a big need for the fire department at the time. So I don't know if it came out and the highway department said, you know what, we'll present it without the plow. And I don't know if it was broken down on that quote that we had,
That one I don't remember. I don't know.
because that's what we looked at, and it was from Gendron.
I
right?
don't know which date though, to be honest. That one I don't know, because I don't remember the initial look at this truck. To be honest, because I know Donnie was presenting. I think that was my first year or second year here, and I wasn't doing the presenting yet. I just updated it with, if we're gonna go with this and take it over, then yeah, I think it'd be cost effective to get it with the plow on it. I did get a quote. I went to the dealer and priced out the truck with the utility body on it, nothing else on it. And then went to a couple other dealers and called and says, hey, what's it gonna cost to have all of this put on? Whether it be the plow and the strobe lights, or they don't do plows, they don't do Fisher plows, so they do strobe lights. So what it's gonna cost to get this? What's that package
And
installed?
through the state bid list, so through the state pricing, or just as a independent going?
Independent company going on the outside. If we got this truck in, what's it gonna cost me to have you put a plow and a strobe light on it? And then what's it gonna cost for this guy to do it? The state goes through it and they order the truck completely finished, done. They don't order many. They order a couple for like the smaller garages, like electrical. They have 2 utility bodies with plows on them. They do parking lots. Other than that, they don't really specify a utility body 350 with a plow. You kind of have to go with what they got if you're going to go off the state bid. And most of them, honestly, now they're pushing for Dodges now because they've switched to Dodges. I'd like to try to stay with the same manufacturer, so then all the filters and everything's the exact same. They're not switching manufacturers and different filter numbers. Then we can store one air filter rather than 4 of them for different brands or different models, which is nice to do for
Makes
the
sense.
maintenance shop. We've started with Freightliner, now ordering Freightliners, and have tried to order them all with the same transmissions. And that's why we're getting pushed back for March on 2 of our trucks, not getting ordered till March, because Allison's not even making that transmission. We're waiting to see when they're going to make it again. Hopefully in March they'll have that transmission. If not, we're going to get one truck with a different transmission, and then who knows what the filters will be in that. then we'll have one truck that's the odd one out.
Okay, so I hate to see this capital discussion get bogged down on the service truck. It's,
Well, I'll just clarify this and I'll be done with it. Is if we're not going to forward this vehicle to the highway department, a 250 is fine. I would like to have the utility body on it, but if we can't, we'll have to survive with a straight body. Because that's what we have now, understanding we're not gonna have storage for the equipment that we want to carry on it. We're not gonna say, no, we don't want this truck. We need this truck. I don't know if you've seen the things around the park. Because we've been using it at the fair and everything else lately, getting, things going up there, but. Yes, the plow would be nice. We put a package originally together with a plow. If we're not getting a plow, understand. We're not increasing our services. It is what it is. But it'll be a new vehicle moving the equipment we have. We'll survive with it, but again, go back to it. As of those numbers, we're $7,000 short. That's where we're at. To that spec, straight body, 250. Does that have a light package and all that stuff
Yeah.
on it?
Light
So-
package and Chevron.
Chevron, so that service truck would be fine.
all right, so again, I don't want to get bogged down with the service truck because I'm looking at a 30-year plan. We have one truck that's newer than 15 years and only two trucks that are newer than 20 years. And I think that's proof that the town has not done its due diligence when it comes to the fire company. Luckily, now we have a plan with the ambulance, but with the fire company to say, we need to upgrade trucks in a timely fashion. The fire company provides a tremendous service for the town. I see 1995 and 2003 and 2009, 2001. I think it makes sense to start coming up with a plan that we can live with. This Board of Selectmen is not going to be here forever. I think we need to put in a plan that future boards can and the town can get behind and live with. So I think it's our job is to come up with something that's palatable to the taxpayer, palatable to the Board of Finance, something that we can sell, that this is just like we do with the highway department, something we can come up with a plan, as I think we have one now with the highway department. Within 12 years, every one of their major trucks gets replaced. With Logan, in 10 years, his two ambulances get replaced over 10 years. So why not have that 30-year plan with the fire company and have all your 6 major trucks never be more than 30 years old? Occasionally, you might do something to tweak it by saying, well, let's get a ladder truck a used ladder truck that can buy another 10 years and flip a couple of trucks around to get into a rotation. So now your most expensive trucks, your ladder and your R1 aren't in the same year. They're always in a different decade. That kind of stuff makes sense to me. You never want your peaks and valleys when it comes to a budget. You want to have it across the board pretty even. I think the Board of Finance is going to look for that. They're going to say, okay, it's whatever that number is, 750, 850, whatever it is a year we're going to spend on capital. That's what they want to rely on unless there's an emergency. I think that's what the taxpayer would want to rely on, something they can depend on so the budget's not constantly going up and down. I think depending on the selectmen, I think I'd like to maybe hone in a little bit more on that plan, Chief, with the used ladder, moving that to year 10 and you moving the truck engine 4 to year 1 and seeing what that looks like dollar wise. And then go to the Board of Finance with this plan. And then we have to decide, once we know what the numbers are for the year 1, 10, and 20, how we finance those. And is bonding the best way to do it is financing. I think we found that savings sounded like a really good idea a few years ago when interest rates were really low. But now with the way that we have inflation, we have all the money we spend on repairs. We're not getting the truck. One of the fellows on the Board of Finance, Lou Gingerella, said, you're charging the taxpayers for a truck that you're saving for 4 years, but they don't have that truck. So you're charging for something they don't have use of. That truck's not coming to the house to put out their fire or they saved their grandfather who's having a heart attack. That truck's still 4 years away, but we're putting money away for it. So I think that he made a good point, I thought, on that. Same thing with the highway garage. The truck we're saving for 4 years isn't plowing your road for 4 years or 5 by the time you get it retrofitted. So I'm leaning more towards financing or bonding. I think it makes sense. But again, the selectmen have to all agree, and then it has to go to the Board of Finance. They have to agree, and then ultimately the taxpayer has to agree. So we can, if this is meeting number 1, if we can fine tune those plans. So then the Board of Selectmen can talk about them and bring those to the Board of Finance. It makes sense to me. And as far as the service truck, again, I don't want to die on the hill of a service truck when we're talking 55,000 versus, 1.8 million or something else. So, if we can come up with something that the fire company could use, they'd have for quite a while. We get Public Works for now. We'll figure out their truck 6 years or 5 years from now. And we can move past this, and then we can get on to, I think, the bigger things.
Question I have is, I think currently in the rescue truck refurbishment line, there's $100,000 there that we're not intending on using.
If we're not gonna do the savings plan, yes, we probably wouldn't be using it.
Because that was for a refurbishment, not a replacement.
Right.
Again, we missed that by a few years now. We haven't actually moved forward with the funding and stuff like that, so we're already way behind on that. The deobligation of the funds would allow the additional $7,000 to cover the cost of this current truck, the 250 straight body. So the taxpayers already paid $100,000 that's not gonna be used. Deobligated, that money goes back into the general fund, and then we request the $7,000 or $8,000 appropriation to cover the additional cost for this 250. Again, the taxpayers wouldn't be charged anymore because they already paid for $100,000 towards a refurb that this year was basically abandoned, or last year was basically almost abandoned. So the money's there to cover this overage, but it would have to go through you approval, and then it would have to go to Board of Finance for the additional funds.
It's a good point.
So just saying, there is money there. So.
I meant to pick up the capital plan from this past budget for the three of us, but I didn't get a chance to get back to town hall.
I
So
think
we
that would have to go to a town meeting too, to
Yeah.
deobligate on
we would.
Yep.
We're gonna have a town meeting coming up. We're gonna have to have something coming up fairly soon because there's a 5-year LoSiP plan and some other things that we have to address. Yeah, we haven't had a town meeting since May, so we're probably due to have one in the fall, early fall. All right, so are we done with the fire company and the ambulance at this point? All right, so Alan, do you want to continue with,
So there was a few little things that had changed, like I said, with that,
thank you, Logan, thank you, chief.
Thank you.
with changing, 2 of the vehicles to 4 years rather than just one of them. I did move a couple of trucks around. I moved truck 5 up, to 2027, 28. I moved truck 4 up to 2027, 28. Sorry, truck 4 to 27, 28, 28, 29 was truck 5. I also moved one of the Mason dumps up to 28, 29, and truck 10 replacement or 15 replacement.
Do you have a handout of this that we can see and note?
I do not. I have a handwritten one because I changed.
Can we use that printer?
We
Can we,
could.
can we use that printer somehow? Oh, you don't have it in your email. You don't have an
You have
email.
an email?
No, I do not. I just have.
Yeah, we can't.
That's not gonna copy for us. Do they have a copier in there?
Yes, she does.
Perfect.
Very small. There was really just a couple items I'd moved around, like I said, with the year changes, coming up with them. And I moved a couple around just because of, conditions a couple of the trucks are in to try to get them a little bit sooner than later. A lot, we've done the last month and a half, I'd say. I've spent a good chunk of money in trying to fix some stuff before winter. That's just been ongoing, and I went through all of the big trucks 2 weeks ago, and I pressure washed all of them, went through all of them, figured out what needed to get fixed before they got fluid filmed, made a list of what the problems are before that need to get fixed. I spent a lot of time in the trucks, actually recently, a lot of time, just to get myself aware, as well as the guys telling me what's wrong with them. I mean, can't drive every one every day to know what wears and breaks on them, but I went through, cleaned them, and saw anything I could see or tell in the parking lot. With moving the bodies up and down and everything else. I spent, like I said, a week. I spent pretty much a day on every truck in there and pressure washed and cleaned everything. After the fair, went through everything. And we fixed a lot of things. A lot of wear items that have finally rusted through, or I found because after going over the capital plan, I've noticed how much longer they have to last. So, we've spent a good chunk of money in the last week just fixing little things that have added up quite a bit. Kind of scared me a little bit, but we're good.
And, so the trucks we're replacing, you're counting on using this winter?
Yes.
Can you
we-
give us,
We will
thank you, Judy.
possibly be using them next winter.
Can you give, can you, can you give me the time frame of the three trucks that we just, well, a loader and two trucks. So the loader is coming when, and it's here, right? Loader we
Loader's
have.
here.
One of the two trucks, the hook truck and the, truck, is it truck number 3?
Yes.
When are they coming?
So 17 and 3. So 17 is the hook truck replacement. Truck 3 replacement. We had done a 10-wheeler, just regular dump truck with a plow on it. Those won't be ordered until March, hopefully. We will not see them for a minimum of 8 months
Why are we taking so long to order them?
because Freightliner of Hartford's only allowed to get so many in for the year, and they've already reached quota. And that transmission problem, we can't get the transmission that we'd ordered with the other one with it. So we'd have to go to a 13-speed rather than a 6-speed, Allison, which I'd rather not do because it's a lot more to break. I've driven one at the state. We don't need 13 gears. 6 gears is more than enough for us to go around town and plow snow. There's no need for that. They're geared so low. They're made to do good weight. We don't need it. There's nothing for that. I'm trying to think of the name of the town. The town of Preston actually got one with that transmission in a 6-wheeler. And it's just slow on the takeoff, which is fine. It's made to go hills, plow a lot of hills. That's all it's made for. A lot of weight and a lot of hills. We have Casada Kill. That's pretty much it. I mean, other than that, we don't really need that transmission.
Did we look at any other states, in any other states?
So we went with Hartford truck because they're on state bid. I don't know with it being so late now that because they're 2025 models, if we could get in within the state. And we're so far into the process, I don't know if we could. That, like I said, that's the one on state bid, so that's what we went with.
Right. So with that state bid list, that's a guide. So just because they're on the state bid list, first of all, doesn't mean it's the cheapest. So on those Fords that we were looking at, they were. So Gendron, or I think it was Gendron.
Yep.
They were about $20,000 cheaper off that state bid list from it. But the state bid list just really means they've done business with the state and we get some kind of preferred pricing.
Yep.
It doesn't mean they're the lowest. So, I mean, you're looking at one particular truck, Freightliner. So you could look in other states when I understand we're in that situation now where we're in it, but when it's time to order other ones, we should be looking at other things. And I understand your want to stay with one manufacturer, but we should look at quality of like manufacturers and cost of those other manufacturers too, to make sure that we're looking out for our residents of our town and our taxpayer dollars when it comes to that.
Which is what we did with the roll-off for the transfer station. I quoted Freightliner, which we actually is what we had ordered. I quoted Mack, I quoted Western Star, I quoted Peterbilt. I said, let's get everybody's numbers. Freightliner was the best one by a decent amount, I'd say, in a truck. Of course, Peterbilt wants to push a little fancier. Mack, they had the new ones. My other concern with all of that was there's not a lot of Macks here. I don't even know how many the state of Connecticut owns of those 6-wheelers and those 10-wheelers. There's so many here. I know parts are readily available. By driving to Hartford, I can pretty much go get anything we need for them. And that concerned me too, because if we're in the middle of a snowstorm and a motor blows, it's going to be a big project.
Yeah. And my understanding is Peterbilt and Kenworth come off the same line.
Peterbilt and Kenworth do.
Yeah,
Western
so a
Star
friend,
does not.
a guy I know just ordered 8 new big trucks. They were driving down the road. As they're driving, they look up in the interior, there's Kenworth stuff everywhere,
Yeah.
but it's a Peterbilt. And
Yep.
it's just, but he did say they threw together all kind of, and this was for the federal government they were buying them for, inferior parts to throw some trucks together in a
Yeah.
short amount of time. So,
Yeah. That was one of our biggest concerns because Donnie's a Mac fan. He's like, we got a price on a Mac, and we did. But like I said, my only concern was there's not a lot of those around here. Like I said, there's hundreds, of Freightliners around here, and I know the parts are there and available when we need it. I mean, Freightliner Hartford has a good selection of parts, quite a good selection. International has been good. I mean, they've had them here for years. Me and Bob have had a lot of problems with Alliance this past week with parts. It's just, I don't know if it's the vintage or what it is, but I figured Freightliner would be the best one around. That's where the state's gone to. It's where a lot of the towns have gone to. It's going to be readily available for a lot of parts. So that could be definitely this winter is a no for those two trucks. Like I said, the loader's already here. I'm hoping they're gonna be here for the winter of 25. To be honest, so a little over a year and a half out, just about a year out. If everything goes what they should be. So that's my
We're
only
paying for
concern.
these things, but we don't have them. So at the end of 4 years, that truck's not gonna be a 4-year-old truck. It's gonna be like a 2.5-year-old truck.
Exactly.
So does that mean that we can push the budget back, then the capital back?
So, not really gonna push it back because we planned on paying for it this year because we didn't know it was gonna be a year and a half out from when we ordered it. So it's not really gonna look like that, but it's kind of gonna feel like that. When by the time we get them, it's gonna feel like we're that much further ahead. Sadly.
So there's no trucks that we're gonna purchase according to what we just did last year with capital. The first time we purchase a truck is 4 years from now. When we pay off the 3-year truck, the next year we can put one truck in the capital budget in year 4 and 2 in year 5, correct?
Correct.
That gives us 6 new vehicles within the first
So
5 years.
in July of 2027, I will hopefully order another plow truck. And then July of 2028, I will hopefully order a second one, a 550 and a pickup, which sadly sounds like a real lot. But when you go off the numbers from what we had this year at 200 and tell me if I'm wrong, I believe it was 275,965 and 88 cents
That's correct.
was the capital. So that in 2027, that goes to 264,922 because that's the end of 17's payments, but we
Mhm.
continue with 3 in the loader, and that's adding truck 4 to this, to ordering it. And then in 2028, that would be the second payment of 4, the first payment of 5, the first payment of truck 2 replacement, which is a 550 Mason dump, and a full buyout of truck 10 replacement, which then would be a 250 rather than a 150.
Okay, but it looks like the next 4 years, this year's budget and the next 3 after that, we're in that 275 range.
So we're almost
Yes.
at, between this and the fire company bonding out, we're almost at our capital max.
Yeah.
Not including anything for
Anything else?
the school, any other facility in town,
Correct.
if we stick to these kind of plans. Okay,
Well, we know that the highway garage, but that's pretty much locked in because we did that financing for the
Right.
3 years and 4 years.
Yep.
The thing that's gonna skew it is the fire company. Also, the ambulance is in this for the next 5 years too, at 32,500. So that's part of this budget for the next 4 or 5 years.
sometimes there's not any major changes with the highway.
The only
From
thing
what
I
I
did
see.
was move a couple
Right.
further back, like I said, because we added that one
Yeah.
truck. So I actually pushed the truck further out. And I moved a couple of the smaller trucks that were cheaper up, and pushed one of the other ones out because they're gonna, by the time if I left, to say truck 10 replacement out to, I believe it was in 2030 originally, 2 years out further, I honestly don't think that truck will make it.
Right.
I'm gonna be coming back to ask because that truck has more electrical issues than anything.
So at this point, like, I don't have many questions regarding this because it's pretty much the stuff we passed already and talked about.
We're not gonna realize the revenue though. I think we budgeted 60,000 revenue for the sale of 3 vehicles. We can sell the loader. But the other 2 trucks we can't sell till we get the new ones. So if we don't get the new ones until the spring, hopefully we can sell those before June 30th.
Yeah.
Because if
Alright.
not, the 60,000 we budgeted for revenue is not gonna happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't plan on selling them till sadly they come in November, December of 25.
One thing we didn't budget is the ambulance for sale. And, I think Logan says we could probably get around 15 to 20,000 for that, and that was not budgeted anywhere in revenue. what's that face for?
Can't buy much for $15,000.
No, but it's revenue, part of the revenue line that we didn't count.
Right.
For some reason, we missed that.
Is that the transit style one or is that the,
It's the oldest one that they said has body rot and
It's a box.
gets a
Got it.
box.
is that better than our food transport one?
Which one's
We won't
better?
get into that.
So you're saying the food transport one might be worse than that?
It's been to the garage a few times for coolant problems,
Okay,
so.
so that's something
we'll
we
just
should
leave it
look
that.
at before
Yeah.
we just sell one vehicle over another.
Yeah, I would compare the two if that's where you're gonna go with that and see which one.
I mean, that might not even be the most cost-effective way to transport the food. I think it fit us, solve the problem short term, so.
I
That's
have no
another,
idea.
that's another discussion,
I
I
have
guess.
no
for-
idea how
Yes.
that's even happening, but it's not my department, so.
Right, all right.
So I just had a quick question. Actually, I want to add to this as well. I do believe in the last one you guys saw of this, the track loader didn't have a refurbishment in it. I did ask for next year for 15,000 to refurbish some of that. I know the bottom end got done. Within the last couple months, we've been using it. I sent Phil up there a couple times to run it, just to put a couple extra hours on it, keep it moving. Because we did have a couple very good hydraulic leaks in the bottom pan. I'm gonna try to get up there and pressure wash the bottom pan out and see where it's coming from. Hopefully it's just a hose. But the last time we were up there, it was quite a bit of oil, sadly. And that would be definitely something I'd want to fix rather than let go too longer, because it was like in the 5-gallon range of what we had to put in it to use it. So, that's quite a bit.
What vehicle's that?
That's the track loader up at the transfer station they use for bulky waste. So.
No, wasn't the plan that we're gonna take the new loaders going to the highway department? The highway garage loaders going to the transfer station, and the transfer station loader is the one we were gonna get rid of.
Yes, so we actually made that swap last week.
We did.
Yes. So
Okay.
the transfer station loader, the oldest one, is now at the highway garage in the shed. So,
And that's the one that we wanna fix, or is it the one that's used?
nope, so the track loader is completely different.
Oh, is it?
It's the one on tracks that sits out by the goodie shed. And we use it for bulky waste in the leaves.
Very good.
The other question I had was I know last year we deducted the landfill cap to 15,000. Was there any appetite? I did some rough math. If it came into the transfer station, brought in $300 a week, it comes to $15,600 for the year, roughly. Last week was a good week. We've also had a couple weeks that we didn't bring any money in. If it was over the 15,000, would you take that money that we've made in bulky waste to the dump and put it towards the landfill cap, or is that going to stay in the cap, the undesignated?
So we can't, we can't,
We could just
revenue
move it.
can't, even though we say it, we know that, okay, you're bringing in 15,000 a year in bulky waste, and we want to use it towards the capping of the bulky waste pile. But it has to go back into the general fund, and that has to be appropriated out or put into the capital coming out. So you could add to that capital line of the bulky waste closure and say, we're bringing in X number of dollars that are going into the general fund. And therefore, that helps build our case why we want to put more money into the closing of the bulky waste pile, the cap.
Yeah.
Similar to the school has students coming in that pay tuition. It doesn't go towards the school, it goes into the general fund. Yeah, but it helps them when they're talking about their budget and the story they're trying to tell,
Yep.
or income to the town.
Yep.
But we just can't automatically move it from here to there.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was any appetite to either bring that back up or if we're gonna leave it at the 15,000.
So the bulky waste pile is getting a lot less use than it was, right? We've cut way down in the bulky waste pile, so would you say that's added to the life of the pile?
I would say it has.
So do we need to go back up to 25? Is that something we need to do?
I'm not saying go back to the 25 per se. I'd like to see what the survey comes back with and how much it actually has filled in last year, and then see what it's brought in. Say this past year, it's not on this one that I believe. So this one last year, which I believe was half the year, if I remember correctly. was 12,422 because didn't we start that in July, the stickers?
Mhm.
So that was just from July on. So January to July, I mean, I would think that we could make $2,600, so we'd be over the 1,600. So I was just curious about that in my own thoughts.
I mean, it's something that I think we consider when we make the budget going forward, but it's hard to say now whether we,
Yeah, because with the stickers, I mean, this was sticker sales and bulky waste this since July, it was $30,828. So I would imagine you'd see that same number next July when you go back to the 2 years again.
So we're not realizing, the first year of a 2-year sticker sale is the big year, right? So I think we did well over between bulky waste and sticker sales, we did well over 40,000, probably closer to 50. But I had Susan defer some of that money to year 2, so it's not a peak and a valley, because this year we're not gonna get much, at least not on the sticker fees. So by deferring it, we're more of a straight line when it comes to sticker fees.
Yep.
Um,
So you'll see that same number next year that we saw, that Donnie has in this report, that we saw the first year.
Probably the
should
number
see-
we budgeted this year for revenue is gonna be the same number next year, or close to it. And bulky waste shouldn't really go up and down because there's no 2-year program with that, that's just ongoing.
Yeah, ongoing. So that's what I was getting at. Like half the year is already $12,000. So that's I was just a question about that.
but there's more expense that we look at the full transfer station, so trying to,
Yeah, no, I was just
Okay.
curious if that was part of if would be an appetite to bring it back up at all or not. So,
I would love a more accurate, and I don't know if we have to pay for that. You just mentioned a survey. A more accurate estimation of how long we have for the bulky waste pile, and then a little bit of an updated estimate on what it would cost to close it.
I can ask.
And
I
how
don't
would
know.
it-
there's been advances in the way they cap them now and stuff too, so
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah,
And that's the hard part to predict is
I know.
when we actually cap it, with the
What a
environmental,
requirement's gonna be.
yes,
Yeah.
how you look at everything, it really could change drastically in how
Yeah,
they
I
cap
get
them
it.
then versus now.
Plus, I think a lot of that's gonna go with, and this is just from the last 2 years of me being here. I don't know what the original thought was with it with being a landfill. Where do we stop? I know the boundary where we can, right now, where the leaves and the wood is and the brush is. I know where that boundary is, but how much further can we come to the building down that road where we have to stop before we have to either build a new transfer station because now the bulky waste pile is into the building, or where do you have to stop? What is the slope grade? Where do we have to be at? And then shoot a good picture on a map and say, all right, this is the elevation you need to be at. This is where you can stop. I don't know where that is. I've always just been told, well, that's as far as you can go and it has to be mowable. Well, what's mowable? I mean, the sides of the highway are steep and they call it mowable. I need to know what DEP says.
Yeah.
And that's what I need clarification on. And then I could think, hey, all right, so this year we brought in, like the last DEP report I read was 4 ton a year. And it's like, I've seen 4 ton going on one truck. Like that's not gonna work. I mean, it depends on what happens in town too. I mean, it could be a bunch of houses torn down and new ones put up. It could be anything. I think that's a hard one to say.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Well, I agree, Nicole. I think it'd be nice to have a clearer picture, because we hear stories like it's another 5 years, 10 years,
Yeah.
15 years, it's $1 million, it's $1.5 million, it's
Yep.
800,000.
Yeah.
The numbers are all over the place.
And I understand why it's all over the place, and it's just hard to plan for when you don't.
Well, honestly, there's gotta be a precise, okay, this is the width and the length and the width of the pile, and the height is this. When you get to those, you have to stop.
Mhm.
And there's probably some direction. There's only 3 or 4 bulky waste piles left in the state, but somebody must be giving us, but who's the person who's gonna say, okay, you can't go any farther? He must know, or she must know what those parameters are. It seems like we just don't know where they are.
We're one of 2.
One or
Honest to
two.
God,
Who's the other one?
They're up in the northwest corner somewhere.
Yeah. Wow.
makes us special.
But then we have to start trucking it out, and that's not inexpensive either. Okay, anything else did you want to talk about?
Do you need anything on the LoSA plan right now?
No, but I need something fairly soon. I need to go back and look at the town meetings in the last 2 or 3 years and start writing down when we did things, because I think the LoSiP, 5-year LoSiP plan has to be approved pretty soon. I think it's in the fall.
That's good.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely work on that.
I had Emily, Lewis go to that LoSiP meeting this morning because she might be working on some grants for us down the road.
Perfect.
All right.
I got that email. so.
Okay. Anything else from Alan? Okay. Alan,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Like a motion to approve tax refunds in the amount of $48.13 to Lisa Kaplan, state of Peter Percy.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, approved. Number 9, old business. We talked already about vacancies and appointments. So we don't have to discuss that anymore unless someone there wants to add something. If not, is there any public comments on non-agenda items? Anybody online or in the audience? Anybody online, Brett, that you can see? No. Okay, our next meeting is August 20th. Question, where do we want to go with the next meeting? Do we want to now keeping capital as part of our agenda to keep discussing it? I'd like to talk to the chief and see if he can clean up that. Have a different vision for that 30-year capital plan with possibly the used Quint truck with some actual pricing and see what it looks like moving things around. So we're not getting the $3 million in the year one. Is that, not that he has to present, but if he can just give us the printout and I can bring them to the meeting.
Yeah.
That would be fine. I think, if nothing else, I think we should just keep it on our agenda to talk about. And, Alan, you wouldn't have to present either, but if there's anything that you want to give to me to bring to the meeting, I can share with the other 2 selectmen, that would be good. I think it's going to have to be an ongoing discussion now, as much as I hate to start it this early in the year.
Yep. No, that's
Um,
no problem.
I would like to, in the, I think it's September 9th is a tri-board meeting. I'd like to at least have something to say then with capital where we are. And I think the capital committee wants to reconvene around then because they want to start talking about school maintenance and how that affects the town in our budget. If we're going to pick up a piece of that, what are we picking up? What aren't we picking up? And I think too, I'd like to have you and Randy maybe meet with myself just to start thinking about shared services. I know Brett mentioned the land use, but maybe there's other things we can talk about too. So
Absolutely.
that's it.
I just had a quick thing, if you have a second.
Okay.
When I was at the firehouse actually working on the dryer, I noticed they had their supplies in there. I had just talking with Dan up there about supplies. I know Bob goes every week to go get toilet paper and paper towels for town hall. What about possibly doing a big order, say 2 or 3 times a year, trying to get a better rate on all of that and then dispersing it out, and taking it out of everybody's budget or however we want to work it out.
Hang on. You go to the firehouse?
No,
You get-
No,
no, I go to
no.
Dollar General.
He goes to Dollar General every
Dollar
week.
General. Every 2 weeks
And
I buy paper towel and toilet
We have
paper.
cases of it. So I told him, I was like, just come up to the garage. It's all town money.
Yeah. So ideally, in my mind, I would love when we have an admin finance director that's set in to look over these things, to do a little more centralized purchasing across the board for things like this, because it is silly. And to team up with the school. I mean, they're purchasing the same things we need to purchase. So those are the things that
We
we
can
can
get
work
it in
on
bulk
together
better,
and buy
yeah.
in bulk. And I guess we'd have to find the storage of how that works. But those are the things where you think it's little dollars, but when it's all said and done, it adds up to be quite a bit, especially when we're trying to
Yeah,
fund this capital
exactly.
program like we
So
do.
No,
think
I
it's-
love that
I
thinking.
think it's the buying, it's the easy part, because we can just, someone can go buy a bunch of it, but it's where we, like you said, where we store it, how do we move it around? And how do we,
This building.
and how do
It
we,
is a good point.
and how do we budget it? How do we do a percentage?
Yeah.
Like, like right now with the early learning center pays a percentage of a utility and so does the school and so does the town. But how do we do it with those kind of products?
Well, I mean, I think we can give it some thought, but I think.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
a great
mind
idea.
going to Dollar General, but I don't need to do that.
I-
And I just know I go there because it's the cheapest. I looked around, it's the cheapest place to go, so.
I just had you in my head getting in your truck to go up and get toilet paper at the firehouse. I was not in the moment. That's, all right.
No, I was just saying there's a, like the town garage, the highway, town hall, the senior center even. I mean, we could even do it. I mean, it would just be a couple more orders for the garage when I put it through.
But you order through Granger,
No,
right?
we ordered through WB Mason,
which is
which
two
actually
top,
I-
high-priced companies.
I
for
priced
that
it
kind of stuff.
through today. Actually, I sat down with Dan, Staples, Uline, WB Mason, Walmart. We went through everybody online for what we get, compared to different ones. WB Mason was better out of all of them, sadly, for the big boxes. And with, especially with the fuel station coming up at the transfer station, these new trucks coming in with the DEF, we priced out DEF separately. I priced it out as us putting in a 100-gallon bulk tank, not adding it to the fuel station yet, because don't want to get involved in that until we get further down. But for us to take delivery of, say, 100 gallons of DEF fluid to keep with a pump and a tank and put it through the fuel system and monitor it so we know exactly who uses what, it was, I think, $1 more for like 2.5 gallon jugs. Or it was $1 more per gallon to get it delivered. If we buy a 55-gallon drum, and get a pump and we put it in the wash bay and everybody comes to the wash bay, gets their DEF, it was, on 50 gallons, it was $100 cheaper. And that's roughly what the fire department goes through a year with the ambulance is 100 gallons. We only have 2 vehicles now with DEF, the loader and the tractor. Come November of 25, hopefully when all the trucks are here, we'll have 3 trucks, a loader, a tractor. There'll be quite a bit in our yard that'll use DEF. And I imagine once Willie gets rolling with the roll-off, that's gonna use quite a bit.
I think every little bit helps.
It's almost like the Army where it's, Army has, what was it, a PX, and everybody had to go there and get their stuff and had that guy who was in charge of it, and so everybody signed out, and that's how got charged out for it, right? So, Bob came and got, 2 packages of toilet paper. So it's, maybe that's a central location, maybe Nicole, you're right, maybe it is in this building that we had something like that, because we could do it with water bottles, we could do it with, there's probably many things we could do it with, and that's when we get Alan and Randy on the same page, and then this town and the school and so on. So I gotta apologize. We have to go back to number 9 real quick. There was something in the job description for, because we have these candidates, this shouldn't take long. We have these candidates that are applying for the admin finance director. Thank you, Alan. And one person does not hit the minimum requirement yet. They have 20 years of municipal experience. I'm not saying this is definitely the person we're gonna hire, not hire so on, but in the future, so many people say to me that field experience is so much more important sometimes than a degree. However, we have the degree as a minimum requirement. And I talked to Brett about bringing it to this meeting and saying, can we change the wording? So can we either use actual years in service in a particular area in lieu of, or can we just change the words from minimum to suggested?
I'll make a motion to change under education, experience and training. Instead of bachelor's degree in public administration or related field as a requirement, to change it bachelor's degree in public administration or related field, suggested, master's degree preferred.
Okay, so just by changing that words, adding the word suggested, you're fine with that?
Yes.
And then we will have that changed on if we agree to it, we'll vote on tonight. I'll change that, have Quentin change it on the website tomorrow. So that's the way it will read. And then legally, we're not bound.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm not in favor. I mean, I'll vote for the change, but I'm not in favor of, not having a degree at all.
Okay,
But that, what that will do is it opens up, I think we'll get a lot of applicants that may not be qualified, but then again, we don't have to interview them.
We need
exactly.
a second before we discuss.
Yeah, I'll second. I'll second it.
And then now that we're in discussion, I agree 100% with Nicole. I don't believe it's in our best interest to change that, but it does open up the pool a little bit more. And
Yeah.
I understand, Bob, you're the one that's dealing with some of the fallout at town hall, and you're going through these resumes and skimming through them originally before you send them to the candidate committee. So I will That's why
Yeah.
the
I'll,
motion
I'll,
got changed.
I'll vote for it.
I
I'm
just
fine
put
with that.
in-
I just think we need to be careful.
No,
when
I
we do
understand, but in
interviews.
practicality, one of the people who just left did not have a college degree, but she had 13 years and
That's a whole different, that's a whole different job description than pretty much our
It's our
highest.
top official,
top
other
official
than
in town.
you, it's
Other-
the top official in the top officer and with people reporting. You're gonna have somebody that
So,
potentially has a degree as our accounting generalist reporting to somebody that does not
no, I
have
agree with
even
that.
the
I
same
But I
qualification.
think could be the selectmen and the committee we have with doing the interviews can ultimately weigh that and say, this person makes so much sense, or we're not even gonna interview this person.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not opposed.
I just don't want to eliminate someone that possibly could do a wonderful job. I'm not talking about this in particular individual in the future. Something could do a wonderful job at any position that we require it, that maybe practicality is if they've done a job for 20 years, and maybe they don't have to, I don't know. So,
I'm not opposed.
Yeah, I think
just
we,
think
that
we
we
have to
are
be
where we
careful.
are, right?
Yeah.
But that part of that job description and those requirements came out of our committee, that we had a separate committee go through some of these and come up with these job descriptions. So I just think we need.
is that the structure committee that
The
came up with that?
governance
Yeah.
structure committee, yes.
No, and, God knows, we don't want to hire the wrong person. But I don't want to eliminate a person that could be the right person because of this technicality, and just change it to suggested, as you just said. So, okay. If no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, that will be changed tomorrow.
Right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.